Well, we're here at almost the end of the day at the Cowboy Way Mayfest here in Ardmore, Oklahoma, and we're here with one of my favorite people because of the knowledge he has, Jim. The knowledge of film history and westerns and just some fabulous stuff, Mr. Charlie LeSueur.
Wow. I can't live up to that.
Well, he's never spoke that nicely about me, I'll tell you that.
He has to me.
Has he?
Yeah.
Oh, he was lying.
Well, there. See, I was trying to give him a compliment.
I know. Well,
I need to ask you because I've been watching. I follow you a lot on Facebook.
Are you the one that's been following me?
That's it. I'm
turn
stalking
around
you.
and
he's a follower.
I'm stalking you. And no, you've been talking a lot lately. When you come on there and you give your little speech.
Oh, on like Facebook and media. Well, nobody really does that. You don't see a lot of that on there. And I figure the social media is there to be used.
Yeah, hey, it should be. Informative.
And people respond to things like that because you're not really going, hey, please buy this or please buy this. You're telling what's going on.
Yeah.
You're telling what's happening. And you're getting them curious about things.
Well,
people don't do that, and I don't know why.
I don't either.
Well, the one thing that I caught my interest is Superstition Mountain? Is that Superstitious Mountain? What is
Superstition Mountain.
Yes, you've been talking about that.
Yeah.
Lost Dutchman,
Arizona,
Jacob Waltz. Yeah, that is the second most visited landmark in Arizona after the Grand Canyon.
I just saw one of those Unsolved History.
Unsolved Mysteries?
No, it's Unsolved History,
Oh,
which
really?
it's playing on a new channel called Quest, but it was originally on Discovery. And it was talking about the superstition.
And what's it called?
The show is called Unsolved History.
Oh, and it goes to other places, not just superstitions.
Oh, it goes all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I did something like that
Did you?
for somebody that did a pilot. So I wasn't on there, huh?
No, I didn't see you.
It was funny because I was telling them the stories about stuff, and they go, well, we want to hear about the Curse of the Superstition Mountains. I go, okay. First off, tell me what the Curse of the Superstition Mountains is. Because to everybody, it's different. There's all the stories. Jacob Waltz, the Lost Dutchman.
Yeah.
First off, he wasn't Dutch and he wasn't lost.
Mm-hmm.
And he was German. They made a movie about him in 1949. Glenn Ford played a... Yes. And she was a villainess in it, but in real life, that character saved him from dying too soon.
Really?
I mean, yeah, wow. he got pneumonia during a big flood.
Because I don't know that story real well.
No, well, it's pure hokum.
Is it?
Yeah, that story in that movie is hokum. I mean, yeah, there was Jacob Waltz, and yeah, there was a Thomas. Can't think, but anyway, she had a confectionery store downtown Phoenix, and when Phoenix flooded,
she wasn't really married to Gig Young, right?
No, she did have a husband, but he wasn't like that. I mean, I'm sure he. And they weren't together like that. It's just pure hokum. The whole thing is pure hokum. Looking through the...
Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah, of course. And, of course, the Dutchman, when this would have taken place, would have been in his 60s and 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's pure hokum right there, too.
Yeah.
He's not a virile Glenn Ford. But the superstitions do hold a lot of mysteries. And it's not just the Dutchman. It is, for example, we talk on one of our episodes about a movie called Mountain Road, which starred James Stewart, Harry Morgan, and it was
Carbon.
Yes, and it was set in China.
Yep.
That was shot in Superstition Mountains.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
They built that big pagoda. They built that full size. It was a full size pagoda, and then just across the freeway or the highway, the old Apache Trail, they built the Chinatown, the town that they blew up.
Right.
And so what we did one of the guys that is on the show with us, Larry Hedrick, was there. I mean, he remembers the pagoda, and then he got in to watch them film. He said that I guess there was supposed to be a guard not letting him down the road, but he wasn't there. So he got in, and he just standing there watching with his friend, and they're all dressed like cowboys, because they came from a cowboy thing. And they got a chance to talk with Harry Morgan and Jimmy Stewart, there. And then the directors, they got in line for their meal, too. We just got in line and ate with them, too. And then the director said, hey, we're getting ready to blow up this village, where they blow it up there.
Yeah.
And if you stay, it's going to be a long time before you can get out. So you have a choice of staying here for a good long time or leave. And they left. Well, what we did is we retraced those areas. We went back and shot what they are now. There's still some remnants of the pagoda. Not the pagoda itself, but the foundations.
Yeah.
Some rebar and some cement stuff that a lot of people have gone up and mistaken for cliff dwellings or hohokam dwellings or this, that, and the other. So we shot up there and we matched it up with the scenery as it was in Mountain Road. Mm-hmm. The Mountain Road, by the way, is actually Fish Creek. Oh. Fish Creek that goes down between on the way to Apache Lake. So it's right there too. It's easy, and the bridge. We show the bridge in this too that they blew up, and of course they didn't blow that bridge up, but they did disguise it and make it look like they're over there in China. So that's one of the stories that we tell. That's one of the mysteries of the Superstition Mountains, and it's really we compare and contrast the area now as opposed to then. Same area, Fish Creek. There was a robber by the name of bandit named Hacksaw Tom. He wore like a gunny sack over his head. And it got to the point where he was quite a celebrity. He never hurt anybody. He would just step out there where the road curves, down where the bridge is, the bridge I was telling you about, and he would rob them. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point where he was kind of a celebrity, and people would actually ride down there just to be robbed. And they call him Hacksaw Tom because his shotgun he hacked it off, and sawed off, and that's his mask, and the shotgun are in the Superstition Mountain Museum. I mean, this actually happened, but they never caught him.
They never caught him.
Never caught him. Don't know who he is. He could have gone somewhere else and did the same thing, but never caught Hacksaw Tom. Well, these are real stories. Now Jacob Waltz is a real story too. Mm-hmm. I mean. But everybody asks, the first question they ask is, has the mine been found? And my answer to them is, if you found that mine, would you tell anybody? Because people have done things like that up there, and they end up dead.
Yeah.
Whatever they found, they end up dead. I mean, I was shot at up there.
Really?
I was pinned down. My daughter, Kira, and my mother, actually. This was in 1991. We were pinned down by gunfire. There's a lot of things going on up there. They can't mine up there unless they have grandfather rights, and there's really no mining up there. But it still has its dangers. There's still things going on up there. This TV show that I did, and it was for the History Channel or one of those, what they ended up wanting was sound bites. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you want to say, people go up in there and they don't come back, or they come back and they've changed. Oh, and that's the curse of the Superstition Mountains. And going, yeah, that's what we want. That's great. You want sound bites. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll give you sound bites, but I hope it doesn't run. I hope it doesn't get picked up because, there's so much going on up there and so much history besides the mine. And if it is up there and it hasn't been found, then chances are it never will. I mean, we're going back to, he died in 1891. And the first real breakout story about the mine was in a newspaper in San Francisco in 1895. And from then people, exponentially the legend grew.
Anyway, you think that it could have all been just a hoax?
There is that. I will tell you that he did. It is on record that he did bring gold from there. He did, and the reason you can tell that, and one thing I learned from the show is, I call it the DNA of the gold. Every bit of gold has different DNA. No, they're not the same. So the gold in the Superstition Mountains is not going to be the same as, say, Flagstaff or Prescott. It's all going to be different. And that has the markings of what they had found and other people had found in the Superstition. So it was up in that area. But did he find a stash that was left there by, say, the Peraltas who were mining up there, or the Indians? And did he just have a stash up there that he would, hide and then go up there occasionally and take the gold out? That's one thing you don't know. I mean, there is gold there. It's on record, silver and gold.
What is the total area of the Superstition?
Oh, man,
Mountains?
gosh. I
Pretty
looked that up.
large?
It's what is it? I want to say 6,000, but it's larger than that. It's 600,000, 60,000, maybe 60,000. I mean, it's big. It's big, and don't quote me on that. Someone's going to go and look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes on forever. You don't realize how big that area is.
Yeah.
It's huge, and a lot of that area is underwater now anyway with the Canyon Lake.
Oh,
A lot of that area that they were mining, that was a man-made lake, Canyon Lake. So, it could be under there. But there's a lot of things. There's a lot more stories than just the Dutchman. But, you cannot talk about the superstitions without talking about Jacob Waltz.
Yeah.
And he is buried over in the cemetery in Phoenix. I mean, he's over there. He was born in 1810, died 1891. Some say 1808, but it's been found it was 1810 that he on his tombstone says 1808. But so anyway, Waltz. The thing is, they don't know whether that was his real name or it was changed when he came over here. Some say Walzer, Waltzer. So some different names like that. Walls. We do know that he does have some documents that he signed, Jacob Waltz. So you'll find books that name him those different names, Walls, Waltz, Walzer. And I looked up the genealogy from back then in Württemberg, Germany, where he came from, because he was German. And the way he got the Dutch name is Deutsch. German is, Deutsch, Deutschland, and that just found its way to being Dutch. And there are documents that were signed by him. We do know that he was a living, breathing person. We do know that he went up there. We don't know how much of the stories they tell about him are true. You'll hear some people say, "Oh yeah, people would follow him and kill him," or some such nonsense.
Like the fish story, always about the fish.
Yeah, the one that got away. Always.
Like
it is, and depending on who you talk to, the story changes. So basically, was there a Jacob Waltz? Yes. He may have even had a partner, we're not sure, named Jacob Weiser or Weisner. We're not even sure on that. But there is some not documentation, but some evidence that Jacob Weisner did live. And in one of the legends, he killed his partner. He killed Weisner because he didn't want a partner. And in another story, the Native Americans up there attacked him because that land's sacred. That is to Indians. That's a sacred area.
Sacred land.
Yeah, and so when Waltz went into Phoenix or Florence to get supplies, they attacked him and wounded him, and he made it into Florence, which is many miles away, but closer than anything else at that time, and ended up at a doctor's home, and he told him where the mine was before he died. So they can't even get that straight about Weiser or Weisner. I do know he exists because I found a plat of land in Prescott that was on the charts from back then for a J. Weiser. So, I believe he did exist, but we don't know what happened to him. So there's all sorts of stories, and they just build exponentially. It's like that you're talking about Lust for Gold.
Right.
One of the characters in that was Barry Storm, the modern day story. When Will Gear and them are attacking him.
Right.
That was Barry Storm, who wrote books on there and was noted for being in that area. Well, he sued him over that movie.
Did he really?
Because there was so much hyperbole. He sued him. And I don't know if he won or not, but yeah, it's just full of hyperbole. And the problem is people watch that movie, as I did when I was a kid, and think, oh, this is the way it is. Oh, yeah, I got to go up there and just find a hole in a rock. And, well, you know what? There are thousands of holes in rocks up there. Yeah, up there. So, and everyone has an idea where the mine was or where the Peralta's mine. The common belief, it's on the west side of the mountain that everyone knows, the Superstition Mountain itself. And a lot of people that I've talked to in the show, the episodes, have the theory that it was on the east side. And the east side is where a lot of silver mines were.
Okay.
And that's where we go and we discover. In one episode, we discover an old prospect that hadn't been visited since 1958 by the guy that we were with. The guy was 80 years old. He says, yeah, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump off that, up that mountain. Well, you could see it in the distance. You can't see the mine. It's all covered. You'd never know there was a mine there. And, it took us 6 hours to get there. There's no trail. It's rough terrain. Our arms were covered in blood.
Wow.
His arm, the 80-year-old guy, he had to peel the skin off. Larry Hedrick, who was one of the founders of the Superstition Mountain Museum. And when we came back, we had to kind of help him out because it wasn't easier. Well, it's going to be easier going down a different way. No, it wasn't any easier going down than it was going up. I mean, it was very treacherous. And this is the one place out of all the episodes we've done, I say, do not go there. Do not. And it's great. We found the prospect that he was talking about, but we had to cut down the brush, and the cat claws were clawing us, and it was treacherous. Clothes were getting ripped. It was bad. But, matter of fact, it got to the point where I got just below where it was supposed to be located, and I just told my cameraman and my partner, David Jones, from Opal Images, I said, just go up there and get some shots. I was literally sick to my stomach. I said, just go up there and get some shots. Well, he went up there and he hacked everything down, and he got up there, and he says, oh, Charlie, you got to come up and look at this. Well, how do you refuse that? He says, oh, it's great. You got to. Well, he got up there, and there's this nice, about a 20-foot prospect going down with an old ladder and some of the older pilings from even before 58 there. And I looked at that and go, boy, you'd be foolish to go down there on that ladder. Well, guess who went down there on the ladder?
You did.
So this is another one of the episodes.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. You got it for the show. Show.
Now, where can the folks at home see this?
You can go onto YouTube. We have it on YouTube under Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains. Go to the website there, and please, everybody, subscribe. Subscribe to it.
And I believe you said it don't cost them nothing, just hit subscribe.
No, it doesn't cost a thing to subscribe.
Yeah, that's what.
And so I would appreciate all the subscriptions. It helps us, and build up our audience. Mm-hmm. And I would really appreciate if we could get Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains. Is also on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can get it there. Okay. I usually just I tell people that because it sounds fancy schmancy, Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
But it is on YouTube and either place. If you have Amazon Prime, it's free. If you subscribe to Amazon Prime, but if you on YouTube, it's absolutely free.
Well, that's something to be very proud of. I mean, a lot of work went into that.
Well, I call them episodes because they're not really shows. Because some of them last 15 minutes, some of them last 10 minutes, some of them last 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
When we're done with the story, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you want them coming back for more.
Right.
And we've had a lot of good feedback from the show. A lot of people
I'm looking forward to seeing
really love it. So it's Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains. You can find it either that way or Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains with Charlie LeSueur. You can find it either way.
Okay.
And just Google it and go on there and subscribe.
Excellent. Also, you're the author of many books. Tell the people how they can get a hold of these books that you write.
Well, I have books where I was selling them off my website, and they could get my autograph, but that wasn't financially doing right. I'm being honest with it.
Yeah.
So they can get them on Amazon.
Okay.
All the books are on Amazon in both paperback and ebook.
Okay.
On there. So I do have them for sale on my website, but it just takes them back to Amazon.
Okay. All right.
They are in some of the museums. Superstition Mountain Museum has them. Scottsdale Museum of the West has them. The Buffalo Bill Museum. I can't remember where that is, but the Buffalo Bill Museum, I should know. That's
Is that
Well,
Cody,
there's one.
Wyoming?
Cody, Wyoming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
there
That's
we
what I
go.
said. I know where it is. It's Cody, Wyoming.
I thought so.
Yeah. And they're there.
Okay.
They're in Lone Pine.
All right.
So they're all over.
Some fascinating stuff too. I mean, just film history is fascinating to me, and I know to Jim, and I know to a lot of our viewers. It's a fascinating subject.
Yeah.
And your books are. I've read through parts of them, and it's some.
Well, you need to read
fascinating
through
stuff.
all of them.
Well, I'm waiting to get my copy, my gift copy.
Just hit the
come on
subscribe
over.
button.
Yeah, you hit the subscribe. Get us a 1,000 members subscribing to the show, and I'll give you all the free books you
Well,
want.
let me go get started on that right now.
Well, we're helping
record.
promote the
That's on
show.
record. That's
We're
on record.
promoting the show right now. Because, Dean and I both talk about the fact the reason we're doing what we're doing is we're trying, like you, to help promote and save the cowboy way. Save the cowboy, the
And
cowboy
keep the Old
history.
West alive.
Keep the Old West alive.
I thought I would get some red baseball caps that say "Make the Westerns Great Again."
Make Western films again.
They're being made. They are out there. The difference is in the old days,
Yes.
you went to the movie theater or you had 3 stations, 3 networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, that would run Westerns. Like 1959, you had over 25 Westerns on
Yes.
through the week. Well, you had 3 channels. Now you have hundreds of channels. And the reason that the Westerns fell out of grace in the late 60s was because the networks were actually competing with each other for the same audience. You have 3 networks competing for the same audience. Yeah. And they had what they call the rural purge. And I talk about it in my books. The rural purge, they were getting rid of like Red Skelton, anything that smacked of rural. Green
Right.
Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, shows
Right.
that were still popular, Petticoat Junction. And like I said, Red Skelton, some of the comedy shows, Ed Sullivan, we got to get rid of them because it doesn't appeal to our audience. The audience we want, which are the younger kids. At the time, it would have been the baby boomers. The younger kid. That's the ones that spend, which we learn now isn't the truth. Where do they get their money from? The parents, if you're that age. But that's what they wanted to go for. So they CBS canceled Gunsmoke, believe it or not, the first time in 1967. And because of Babe Paley, who was William Paley's wife, it was her favorite show, they even discussed it on the floor of the Senate that it's being canceled. Because of her, they had to put it back on because if Mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
No kidding.
And so they did put it back on, and it's funny because they had to cancel another show that had been renewed. Paul Savage, who was the writer head writer of Gunsmoke, said that Alan Hale, the skipper, after Gilligan's Island had been renewed for another season, came in his office and said they made a mistake. They should have canceled us and kept you going. Well, when Babe Paley demanded that it be put back on, they had a half hour open, but they need another half hour for the show. They canceled Gilligan's Island. And he said, Alan Hale came in after that happened and said, they made the right decision. But it was done because the Westerns got involved because the PTA and pressure groups like that said there's too much violence in the Westerns. And so the network said, that's how we'll get rid of the Westerns. We'll lump them in with all these other shows and say that's not the audience that we want. Mm-hmm. Because, you had the Vietnam protest. You had Martin Luther King's assassination, JFK, and before that, or RFK, and before that you had John Kennedy, President Kennedy. So you had all this going on, all this turmoil in the 60s.
Right. And
they were blaming it on the violence in the Westerns. Mm-hmm. A prime example is High Chaparral was renewed for, I think the 5th season was renewed. They had the scripts ready, everything to go. They lost viewers in the 4th season because it came down an edict from the network. If someone gets shot, you need to show them getting up. You can't kill them. Don't kill them.
Just wing them.
and High Chaparral was pretty violent Western for its time. It was pretty gritty. You could taste the dust. That was a gritty show. So they lost viewers. That was when they put Rudy Ramos in as wind on the show, and they were going to continue that, but it was canceled because of they found a way of getting rid of the westerns. And then, of course, Gunsmoke went on to 75.
No kidding.
Yeah, Bonanza a couple of years before that. But that's the rural purge, and that was the reason they said, okay, we're getting rid of these other shows that appeal to people over 45 or whatever, so let's get rid of the westerns too. Well, we're doing it, and then we'll put on things like the Mod Squad and shows like that appeal to that audience.
Right.
And of course, that's what they did.
What-
You got a lot of situation comedies, the Brady Bunch, and people like that. These
yeah.
inane comedies that they put on because that's the audience they wanted to appeal to.
Well, Get TV
Yeah.
and Grit TV are running a lot of those. Grit
Well-
TV is running some of those great old westerns.
See, here's the thing. It was all demographics, age groups. You had 3 stations that were competing for the same audience. Now,
Right. Now you got-
have hundreds
Yeah.
of the demographics are working for us because hundreds of stations or networks or filmmakers can't be competing for the same audience.
Yeah.
So they have to have appeal in different things. And, some of them realize there is an audience for the Western. Some, do some other theme, whether it's food, cooking, or what. They have different things. And so there are a lot of Westerns on, the old ones.
Yep.
And some new ones. They had some good ones. Hell on Wheels was terrific. The Sun with Pierce Brosnan I really enjoy.
We talked about that last week.
I love that show.
Yeah.
And so there are shows, Longmire.
Oh, yeah.
Longmire.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, there you go. So
Man, that
they're
is a
out there.
wonderful program.
You have to look for them.
Now, the Paramount Network, which used to be Spike TV, is now the Yellowstone series, which is a contemporary Western.
That's
That
Kevin
looks
Costner.
good.
And Rudy Ramos is on that with
Is he really?
Yeah, from High Chaparral. Rudy Ramos.
I know that Bud
is-
Taylor's
is-
working in it.
Yeah, he's excited.
And Wally
because-
Welch, a good friend of mine, is working in it.
So so there's a lot of those familiar faces that are working on that
Yeah.
show with Kevin Costner. So there are those, and then on demand or DVD are churning out westerns by the dozens, pretty much almost every month. You just have to look for them.
And Bob Terry's doing a lot of stuff.
Bob Terry's got a lot of stuff going. His westerns on the internet there, and he also has one that I like, the Forsaken Westerns, that are the little known westerns.
I've heard about that. but I
Oh,
haven't
it's very
seen it.
fascinating, very fascinating. I recommend people to look at his site. Westerns on the Web, is that?
Yeah,
what
that's
it's-
it.
Yeah, and the Forsaken Westerns, and he's got films on there that you can't find anywhere.
Well, it's some great stuff.
Yeah. One of the really hard ones to find is George Montgomery's version of Riders of the Purple Sage. 20th Century Fox is hard to work with, and they don't have that available for any stations for purchase or anything.
Really?
I asked him, "Do you have that in your library?" He looked it up. He said, "Yeah, I got it." He can't run that one, but he does have it, and I might have it too. I've got about 500 westerns at home, a lot of them on VHS. It was given to me by the De Palma family, if you've ever heard
really?
that name.
Brian De Palma?
Well, his cousin.
Okay.
It's like his cousin.
All right.
But he's a good guy. And they just they had all these westerns. Said we're not going to use them. So they box after box after
Wow.
box. And I might have a copy of it. Who knows? But they're coming back. They're not going to be high profile like they were in the 50s and the 60s because we have all these other television stations and stuff producing. So they're not. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But every once in a while we have a gem in the theaters, like a Tombstone or an Open Range or Hostile. It's just we
What
have.
do you think about Hostiles?
Haven't seen it yet.
I saw it.
Haven't seen it. What do you think?
I liked it. There were some things that didn't particularly love about it, but it was a well-made Western. It kind of took its time getting to it, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Well, we got all the English actors playing cowboys.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good one. There's gems that come out in the theater, but as I tell my audience, everyone says, why don't they make more westerns for the theater? And I say, because nobody goes to see the ones that they do make.
Right.
Now they may go see Hostile or whatever. They may go see those, but for every one of those, you got a Cowboy and Aliens. Or a Lone Ranger with Johnny Depp. And they went, we're not going to go see that. Well, okay,
yeah.
here's what you got. You got the young suits back in Hollywood that are making these movies, and they don't remember Westerns.
No.
So they say, okay, we got a good combo here. We got all the people from Pirate of the Caribbean, including Johnny Depp. Successful series. We're going to make Lone Ranger. And then it bombs.
Yeah.
Well, then they look at that, Jerry Bruckheimer and all of them look at that and say, well, it couldn't have been us. It couldn't have been Johnny Depp. It had to be because nobody wants to see the Lone Ranger. And that's what happens. Or people don't go see Harrison Ford in Cowboys and Aliens because it's Cowboys and Aliens, you know? So, anyway, if people want more Westerns, they need to support the ones that are out there so that the suits can see that they're popular.
Yeah.
Yep. And there will be some good ones made. And like I say, Hostiles,
they're coming around the corner.
It's not a bad movie.
Well,
wasn't what I expected, but it was not a bad film.
Well, I've got it at home. I just haven't watched it. But somebody said, it's about time, and it was a young guy, said, it's about time for them to do another version of Tombstone in some way or another, the gunfight at the OK Corral. That's been a long time ago.
Yeah,
that was
25 years, wasn't it?
93 and 94 for Tombstone and Wyatt Earp.
Yeah.
Wasn't that 25 years ago?
Yeah.
I think they just had the 25th
Yeah,
anniversary.
so...
And I still enjoy that movie.
Oh, it's one of the best Westerns.
Right.
And, and if it wasn't for Kurt Russell, it wouldn't have been anything because he basically directed the film.
That's what
because
I heard.
There's so much trouble on that set, and they fired...
Well, the writer was the one that was directing it. And,
Right.
And
and you know whose stepson he was, don't you?
Who?
He was
Kevin Jarre is his name.
He was the stepson of Maurice Jarre, who was the music composer
Of course, okay.
for Lawrence of Arabia and some of those great,
Well,
for the professionals, some really good movies.
Costner was attached to that movie originally
Yes.
before it
Right.
became the finished script, and he wanted to go a different way
Yeah, he wanted to do the whole story kind of, didn't he?
and focus more on Wyatt Earp
Right.
and an ensemble. And then so they got rid of Jarre, and he never directed another movie. Then they brought in another
And
director.
he passed away.
Yeah.
Great writer, though.
Oh, great writer. Well, I mean,
I will say that.
But they just didn't like what he was doing. Oh,
Alert flyer.
Oh, there you go.
It's a low flyer.
There you go.
one of those suits in Hollywood coming by.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, once they brought him in, Cosmosis, or I can never pronounce the name, but it's George
Yeah. Cosmatos.
Cosmatos.
Yeah.
He was just a token
He
director.
was just a...
It was
a figurehead.
It was Russell that directed it.
That's what I heard.
And Buck Taylor told me one time, he said, it hadn't been for Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell wanting to keep what the original writer, Kevin Jarre, wanted, then that movie would have never turned out. But it turned out good because they kept the spirit of it.
It's classic.
It is.
Now, the reason that they didn't like what Kevin Jarre was doing is because he was filming it like,
No cover
like
shots, right?
Costner did Wyatt Earp. It was more like John Ford.
Mm-hmm.
Only John Ford can do John Ford.
Right.
And, he'd set the camera down and let the action speak for itself.
Yeah.
And that's what he was doing. And
Buck said that the coverage was not that great, and and
Peter Scirecco, Peter.
yeah,
Peter said that in that movie, his character, he wrote some lines for him, and he would show them to Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell. He said, "Next thing I know, they're saying the lines." But they were very generous with that film, despite it. I mean, and let's face it, any Doc Holliday that was before Kilmer or after Kilmer is always now judged
by Kilmer.
by Kilmer, not by him personally, but by the
And
fans
the
of the
first
movie.
Doc Holliday to have a Southern accent.
Well, no. Peter Breck did in the 50s. He played it a little bit with a Southern accent, and to a certain extent,
On what?
it was the Warner Brothers shows.
Oh, okay. All right.
And, Adam
TV.
West would play Doc Holliday on there, too.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But Douglas Foley.
See, I learned something today.
Douglas Foley on the Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp would simulate a somewhat accent. Just simulate it a little bit, just a touch.
Was there two different Doc
There were two different Doc Hollidays.
on that
There was
water?
Myron Healy,
Okay.
and Douglas Foley played Dr. Fabrage on that show, and he played Wyatt Earp. So he did two different roles. So at one time he was this old doctor, and another time he was supposed to be a younger Doc Holliday. So, but people liked him better. But
A
Myron
Desilu
Healy did
production.
a Desilu production. Yeah. So Yeah, there's been a lot of dock holidays through the years that have played. Like I said, Adam West did it.
What do you think about Dennis Quaid?
I feel sorry for Dennis Quaid because he lost all that weight to play the part, and he did a stunning job as Doc Holliday. It was a perfect example of Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
And you could feel
looked
the agony.
tubercular,
you could feel the pain. The problem is, you could feel the pain. With Kilmer, you saw he's a little pasty, he's sweating. You could tell he's sick. But he has all those great lines.
Uh-huh.
I mean, come on, he had all those great lines. And so, I felt sorry for Quaid. And who knows if that movie had come out first, maybe would judge. I don't think so. I think people would still, Kilmer. But Quaid, I understand, is going to be down in Tombstone for their.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Doc Holliday Days or something. Someone's gonna call me on that. But last year it was Val Kilmer, and I hear that Quaid's going to be there this year.
Well, I want to ask you.
Excellent.
I want to ask you one other thing.
Sure.
Before we shut down here, I know you're ready to go, and we've been here all day. But Burt Kennedy wrote some great scripts. The Ran On, Yellowstone Kelly,
Let
Fort
me tell
Dobbs.
you about Burt Kennedy. Burt was the most genial, the most wonderful man. Did you ever meet him?
I did.
Yeah. He would come to festivals no matter how long it was since he had seen you. Hey, Charlie, how you doing? And he'd stand and talk to you, and he had some great stories. Some wonderful stories. Yeah. There's the great story. He has some in his book, the Trail Boss, or, that...
I haven't seen that.
It's a wonderful book. And he tells the story of when he was doing the War Wagon with Kirk Douglas and John Wayne.
Duke, yeah.
And if you remember that movie, Kirk Douglas is really duded up in the movie, as Kirk Douglas did in a lot of his films.
Are you going to talk about the ring? Are you going to talk about the ring?
You know that story. Well, then I won't bother you with it.
No.
Well,
these people might not know it.
People out there
it's just that, they're probably repeating it back right now as we're talking about it. But Duke went to Burt Kennedy and said, Kirk is wearing this black, and he's wearing gloves, which, first off, a gunfighter would not have worn gloves.
Right.
I mean, how did I get to that out? But he's got a little pinky ring on.
Yep.
Over the glove. So, you see some shots where he doesn't have it and some where he does. But he had a pinky ring, and John Wayne said, you got to talk him out of that. You got to tell him he can't do that. You're the director. And you need to go in and tell him.
It's a great story.
Yeah. So... okay. So Burt went in there, and the Duke was right behind him the whole way. And Kirk Douglas didn't like nicknames, so he didn't call him Duke. He called him John. He would never call people by their nicknames. He wanted proper names. So John Wayne standing behind Burt Kennedy, and Burt said, that's a pretty nice outfit you got on there. Looks pretty good, pretty fancy. But, do you really think that that pinky ring is out of place? Or, what do you think? And Kirk Douglas says, I think it looks just fine. I think it looks great. What do you think, John? And Wayne says, well, it looks fine to me.
That's a great story.
After all that complaining.
Yeah. That is a great story.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to shut it off here, but tell you what, we had a great time. Good. Always love talking to you, Charlie.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for taking time to spend with us, brother.
Oh, my pleasure.
Oh, by the way, congratulations to your son who just got married.
Tyler just got married, and
he's been missing a lot of sleep.
Probably.
No, you.
Well, as of right now, let's see. This is Saturday, and I've been awake since 6:30 Friday morning.
Oh boy!
And then went to his reception. Then caught a plane at 12:20 at the airport to come out here from his reception, and from there got my rent-a-car that they got for me, and I spent another 2 hours coming out here. And the GPS was playing real tricks on me all. So you probably had those experiences with the GPS. You got to ask it just right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I finally got it figured out. But I missed the first panel here because I was still on the freeway, right? So to this moment, I have not had any sleep since 6:30 yesterday morning.
Well, you get to some rest tonight.
Well, I'm glad you made it.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate this, and this is a wonderful, I got to say, this is a wonderful festival.
It is.
The Cowboy Way Mayfest is an absolutely fantastic festival. And you know, last year was pretty good, but this year it is
good.
It
really.
is actually, I mean, this is a good festival. And I done good here. So it's a good festival.
Till we meet again, good luck, God bless, and we'll see you at the Crossroads. Let's go, Dan.